Hi, everyone. I'm Macomb County Prosecutor Pete Lucido, and we're here today to interview our Chief of Hate Crimes, Patrick Coletta. So welcome, Patrick.
Thank you, Pete.
So what is a hate crime? Why did the unit start? How is it funded? What type of crimes are hate crimes? And what can you expect if you're charged with a hate crime? Let's start off, first of all, about how the hate crime unit got started and how it's funded. Could you explain that to everybody?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the hate crime unit was founded in our office in 2022 because, frankly, you saw the need to put more emphasis on the prosecution of these kinds of crimes. Through the work of our office, we had a number of people working to apply for a federal grant called the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Grant. We were lucky enough to be awarded that grant in 2023 as one of only 16 sites in the country that year. The total number is in the 60s now somewhere. But we received $800,000 from the federal government to fund my position and all the support I need for 4 years to help prosecute these crimes and to help bring the community closer together.
Over the last 40 years, and I've been homegrown, born in Macomb. I've opened my practice here after law school. I noticed that we had a diverse community here in Macomb County, such as when I first started practicing, like my grandmother and grandpa came in from a foreign country, and I know that a lot of other people are first generation here, second generation. So they came in from different nations, such as Ireland, Italy, Germany, France, Poland. And then I noticed that we had another flux of Albanians, Yugoslavians, Chaldeans. We now have Bangladeshi, Indian, we have Ukrainian. We have such a diverse population here in Macomb County of different ethnic groups and nations. And what that does is it lends itself to educating those individuals in our county with a hand up on what their culture's about, how their food is, what type of religion they practice, etc., what have you. I also noticed that they expanded up in the legislature. Our federal laws have certain penalties and consequences with hate crime, and I noticed that we have hate crime on our books in the state, which is starting to get refined by the legislature. Tell us what type of hate crimes are happening in Macomb County.
Yeah, and first of all, I'll say you're 100% right. Macomb County is a diverse community, and it's only getting more diverse. And I think that's what makes the county so great in many ways. And our laws, to a certain extent, haven't really kept up with that diversity. And so I'll talk about that first. As you mentioned, there is some legislation pending right now in the Michigan Senate that would expand Michigan's hate crime law, which is called ethnic intimidation right now, to include some other classes of individuals that historically haven't been protected by our laws. So the proposed hate crime bill that's currently in the Senate would expand to reflect, like you mentioned, the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act that was recently expanded, and would include some additional protected classes, which would be age, mental or physical disability, and sexual orientation and gender identity. And right now, the Michigan criminal law is silent for those groups of people.
You know, I appreciated the fact that our federal government saw the need to put out that grant program. I'm more appreciative that we received those funds, and like you said, it's $800,000 over 3 years.
Over 4 years.
Over 4 years. And those funds are not local taxpayer dollars, they're federal dollars that are coming in for funding the entire unit, including your salary and the other help that assist in what you do. Those crimes that come in, you exclusively look over for purposes of authorizations on warrants, correct?
That's correct. So anytime somebody reports that a hate crime was committed to their local police department, the police department then conducts their investigation and they make a decision whether or not to submit it to our office for review for potential charging decisions.
And your job or your duty is to look at the totality of all the facts, the circumstances, which can include all the evidence, which a body camera or statements made or photographs that's been presented to you.
Right.
Such as we have a recent one that went to the federal government for a hate crime where they drew swastikas in a Baptist church down in the city of Warren. And would that be considered a hate crime?
It could be. I mean, I'm not familiar with the exact circumstances of that case. I wouldn't be a very good lawyer if I talked
That's
100% in any way. But so it could be, certainly.
So give us some examples of what cases that you've handled that's hate crimes here in Macomb County.
Absolutely. And what I'll indicate first is that right now the state of our law is that a person's guilty of ethnic intimidation, which again is our hate crime, if they, with the intent to harass, threaten, or intimidate somebody, either assaults a person or threatens to damage that person's property, or actually damages that person's property, or commits a threat to assault somebody because of their race, national origin, ethnicity, or color. And so any cases where that motivation, that we call it a bias motivation, wherever that is the motivation for the commission of the crime, then I get involved. And so we have seen, gosh, just a little bit of everything. It seems like the most recent example of a case that I charged was a particular incident that occurred in St. Clair Shores at the VFW Hall on Jefferson Avenue. And there were some individuals who got into what started out as a political disagreement, but the offender allegedly used homophobic and transphobic slurs against the other people that he was arguing with, and allegedly made some assaultive gestures towards them with his car. And so that's why we were able to charge that particular individual with ethnic intimidation, excuse me.
And what is the criminal penalties associated with the ethnic intimidation? Could you explain to the viewers?
Of course. So ethnic intimidation is a felony crime. It is, I think, the lowest level felony crime that exists in the state of Michigan. Is punishable by up to 2 years in the state prison. And one of the things I'll point out that the bill that's pending in the Senate right now would do is increase the penalties in certain circumstances, and increase them even further if somebody were to be, for example, a repeat offender.
That's a good idea. I think that people that are not even getting to know somebody, not even getting to know your neighbor, that's what brought about a lot of this. And I think we are one, of very few prosecutors' office, 83 in the state, that actually has a hate crime unit. Is that correct?
In fact, I think we're the only one, Pete.
And you know what it is? It's seeing the future, getting us there before the future catches to us. And I'd like to see the laws, like you said, catch up. The thing I'm most concerned with is this. How do we go ahead and prevent it? And I know that we just sent out to all the brand new school boards that were elected, each and every member of the school board, because they are the voice of the mothers and fathers who have children in our schools. Tell us why we engaged the school boards and what we intend to do with the school boards.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing it up. I was going to mention it. You stole my thunder a little bit, but we are trying to get into all the schools so that we can get face-to-face with the students and with the staff of the schools to educate them on what a hate crime is and what to look for and how to report it if you think that you've seen something. And one of the things that I've become a big believer in is this idea of know me before you need me. And so often people who get involved with the criminal justice system, either as a victim witness or a defendant, they don't know that we're people too. We're just sort of faceless suits a lot of the time. And so I really believe in know me before you need me. And that's why it's so important to get out in all areas of the community, and not just schools, and really talk to people at a local level and really make sure everybody understands what to look for and how to be on the same page with all of this so that we can be a community instead of just a bunch of different groups of people.
I noticed that in the grant itself, it talked about outreach. It talked about getting into the communities. I know you've already been in some churches. You've been before some city councils or townships and villages. I know that you've been trying to exert anything and everything you can to educate the community as to why this took place, how you intend to see this through, but more importantly, I believe in educating these young students that are in these schools, that go to school with such a diverse and vast different culture and ethnic and religion, so that they can understand before you make judgment, please understand what these individuals' lives are about. what it was that they did in their hometown where they came from. And I know that we use these pamphlets that are out there. It's called The Hate Crimes and What You Need to Know to Protect Yourself and Others. And we are intending to stop the hate by all of this. These are conveniently in most of the police departments, if not all.
That's right.
We want to get them into the hands of the parents in schools, because if they believe that their child is being bullied for hatred as it relates to the social media, the different platforms that are out there, I want you to make sure that they are not alone, that they do have a voice and they can be heard. Tell us what you intend to do in those schools.
Absolutely, and schools are especially important because that's where people really start to develop their worldview and really start to become who they're going to be as grown-ups, right? And I don't think that we're born hating other people. I really don't.
I don't think so either.
And so it's so important, while you still have an opportunity to reach kids before they're fully formed into grown-ups, to educate them that it's okay to be different, and differences are really in a lot of ways what makes us all so great as a society. And so I've developed a program called Hate Crimes 101, and that's the presentation that you mentioned that I've done with lots of groups around the county already. And I'm tailoring that specifically toward groups of younger people, so that they can be more familiar with some of this terminology that is talked about when dealing with crime and things like that, and also just that you're going to be different than people, and being different from people is not a reason to hate anybody.
No, it's not. In fact, we educate ourselves and see some days we're really not that much far apart. We're actually a lot alike when you start to come down to talking to them. Pat, how do they get a hold of you or your staff if they want to schedule, let's say, a hate crime type, discussion, and or get you in the classroom, get you in front of their church crowd, get you in front of their city council, so that they know what to expect, get the pamphlets in the hands? How do they get a hold of you? Who do they talk to?
Well, we've made it really easy. So we've created a special email address. It's hatecrimes@macombgov.org.
What was that again?
hatecrimes@macombgov.org.
And if they want to call you, do you have a number?
I have a direct line. The easier way to remember it is 833-NO-MORE-HATE. That's NOMORH8.
And if they get a hold of you through that, or call the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office and ask for the hate crime unit, they're going to speak to you directly.
That's right. I'm always available.
Well, I appreciate all your hard work, effort. It's now you, the community, that have to get a hold of Patrick Coletta. He's the chief of the hate crime unit. He's willing to come to your school, your city council meeting, your township or hall meeting, even some of your special interest groups that are out there to talk about, and religious organizations, to talk about what it is that the hate crime unit does and how we can prevent it moving forward. If there is crimes of this nature, what you can expect as the consequences and penalties. Pat, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. And I appreciate the fact of your leadership and your desire to do what you're doing, taking something right out of the brand new like this and bringing it to the population that we have here in Macomb County and sharing what we need to keep hatred out of our lives. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Pete, and thank you for all you do for us.
Appreciate it. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. We hope that you will utilize the tools of the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office. We're here to help. So thank you for joining us.